The only thing I haven't done is go to long-term prison or fully die. My heart has stopped, so I guess I died clinically.
Welcome to Rise Above. I'm Kevin Lanning, your host, along with my co-host, two-time gold medalist Olympian, two-time lightweight champion of the world, Kayla Harrison. In today's episode, we will be sitting down with UFC fighter Jared Flash Gordon. Jared's story is nothing short of a miracle, and he is a true testament to rising above. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Let's jump in.
Man, so you got what, 3 weeks?
2.5.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be there, I think.
Are you coming? Nice.
I was gonna come, then I canceled my trip because I'm closing on a house on the 12th.
Congrats, man.
Cool.
And my wife was like, "You're not fucking going to UFC 300. We're closing on the 12th." And then we got to move, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Ugh, all right, fine." So I canceled my trip, and then today my friend convinced me, and I'm like, "All right, I'm going."
Oh,
But
boy.
so I'm
I
just
can't
gonna-
wait for you to
I'm
have
just
that
gonna-
conversation with the
I
wife.
had it with her. I'm like, "Listen, I'm going to be there the 12th, and I'm going to fly into Vegas on Friday night, and then I'll leave Sunday." Big fucking
Oh,
deal.
that's good.
Yeah,
Honey,
yeah.
it's for
yeah.
work.
I don't know why I didn't think about that.
It's
It is for work, though, because
it's a work trip.
it's not just a fighting thing. It's all the guys. So I'm partnered with these treatment centers for addicts and alcoholics.
Love it.
And
Love it.
all of the owners and staff members are going. So
that's good.
we get content.
Yeah,
we're at the
yeah.
fights,
That's
we're
awesome.
sober.
We're sober.
Shit like that.
You're the only ones there that are
Yeah,
sober. That's
exactly.
good.
The whole out of 22,000 people. That
Yeah,
are
you
at
and the
T-Mobile.
fighters
Yeah.
for a short period of
Exactly.
time. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, by the way, welcome to Rise Above.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome,
for
man.
having me. Yeah.
We're
Thank you
super
for coming.
excited to have
Of
you.
course,
Yeah.
When you messaged me and you were like, "Oh yeah, I'm with Kayla," I'm like, "Oh, I'm in."
If it was me,
Yeah.
if
I
it was
sealed the
me, he
deal.
would have been like,
Probably,
fucking,
yeah, you're right. I'm like,
still in his inbox.
Who
I'm
the
really
fuck
busy.
is that guy?
When people message me and I'm like, I don't know who you are, and I
Yeah.
look, and
Yeah.
I'm like, you have like
it's a lot.
like
No, I'm
I gotta
sure you
pick
get
and choose
inundated. Yeah.
my when I'm gonna donate time.
Yeah.
So like, well, yeah, when I heard Kayla, I was like, oh, of course, yeah, I'm in.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I thought I
of
was the
course.
fucking big name around
So,
here. I mean,
how
Jesus.
often do you get? You're a big
Thank
name
you.
in my
Thank
heart.
you, honey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I get asked often. To
Yeah,
do,
like
I
every-
did one
like-
yesterday in Delray. It was my father's in this like group for business people that have like a meeting every Monday at like a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some group. It's called BNI Group, and it's like one person from every industry in the area, and they're like a huge support. It's like a support network, and this guy is a realtor. He owns like a Max Realty or a Remax, I mean, and he has like a decent sized podcast. I'm like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So I mean, yeah, I do them often.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like,
this
no.
is like totally an accident. I did not plan on having a podcast.
Oh, really?
And then
This guy hit you up.
Kev was like,
I
I
think
really want to
it's-
focus on mental health and not. Like, have you ever seen? So what we were talking? Have you ever seen Soft White Underbelly?
Yeah, I love that guy.
Oh
Or
It's so sad.
there's one guy that he always interviews. I forget his name. He's like a gangster. He's done like 8 interviews with the guy, maybe
Sharp?
more.
Sharp,
I
the
think
pimp?
No, I've seen that guy. Mexican.
Dude,
He's
I
like a
love
Mexican
Sharp.
dude.
The
He did
yeah.
did like a prison, like long prison sentences, and every time I'm like, man, I've watched all of them, and they're pretty serious.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
sad, dude. They break
They're
my
really
heart.
sad.
No, they
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
kill
They're very
me.
We were talking and we were like, we want to do something where we're interviewing people but giving people hope. Because sometimes I would watch Soft White Underbelly. Now, he has people back who end up getting sober
Yeah,
and
yeah.
clean.
They get
Yeah.
cleaned
But a
up.
lot of them are people that are just
And they're
at rock
repeats.
bottom.
He'll
Yes,
interview them
and they're
over and
in
over.
it. Like
Yeah.
they're in the addiction.
live in,
or
like,
they're in, yeah, dude. It makes
What's
me
that called in LA?
Skid Row.
Skid Row and all
Yeah,
that. It's crazy.
yeah. So we were like,
Let's do this.
let's rise above. let's
rise
find
above.
people like
Yeah,
with
there
stories
you
of
go.
hope and
Right,
like
right.
encouragement. you
I
know?
originally
Cool.
did not want you on. Like, I wanted to just do it. But no, I'm just...
I love that. I just find a way in. You know, I just find my way in.
She's like, I'm fucking in your podcast. By the way, my neck is a little sore from yesterday.
from what?
She fucking choked me
Oh,
out.
he came to my sparring session yesterday and then
nice.
tried
I
to
got
fuck up my friend. So I had to like,
Don't act like you weren't impressed.
Who? What's her name?
little Kayla.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
meet her? Yeah.
Yeah.
The
I met her a
standing.
few times actually. I met her through I think Jillian
Yeah,
person, maybe?
Jillian. Yeah, Jillian. Yeah.
She's friends with her, right? So,
Yeah. KK. Yeah. That's funny. Everybody knows everybody in our circles. Like,
Oh, for
eventually,
sure. Yeah.
you all, like, we all get to know each other.
Definitely.
But, okay, so I want to go back and kind of, before we talk about rising above and your story, like, can you take me back to your early childhood? Because this is a big thing for me. I have found through my own healing journey that, like, a lot of, like, addiction is a symptom. You know, it's not
course.
really. So I just want to hear about your childhood and,
Yeah.
like, how you grew up, and
Sure.
if you don't mind sharing.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Long Island. The first
Oh
half
my
of
God,
the
another
first
Long
half
Island boy.
of my life
Okay.
was in Nassau in Roslyn Heights.
Roslyn
My
Heights,
father was a blue-collar guy, but he did very, very well for himself. And we lived in the North Shore of Long Island, a wealthy area, like really, high tax bracket. We had, like a 6-bedroom house, multiple houses, 3 cars, pool, huge piece of property,
Wow.
the whole nine.
Wow.
And everyone around us was in the same boat.
Yeah.
I went to school with Howard Stern's kids. I went to school with the owners of Cablevision, WB11,
Dolan's?
all sorts of different people that did really well for themselves. So I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth.
You have siblings?
I do. I have an older brother, Dylan, who's also in recovery. And I have a younger brother, Dean, who looked at us and was like, nah, I'm good. And never went down that
Good for
route.
him.
But he was like 6 years younger than us, or
Okay.
than me. So there was like that gap. Me and my
Yeah.
older brother are only 20 months apart. So we were like, we
Yeah.
hung out together. So life was great. Everything and anything that I wanted, I had. If I asked for it, I usually got it, unless I was like being a little prick or something. My parents are great people. My dad, businessman, really determined, gets what he wants, does it the way he wants to do it. My mother's Sicilian, Italian lady. She grew up in Astoria, Queens. Her father was a professional boxer. She came from a completely different background. My father's parents are from London. So after the war, they came over, settled here, bought a hardware store, and my father and my uncle took it over, turned it into a corporation, and they did like wholesale and retail throughout all the boroughs in New York City.
Oh, wow.
So they did very well for themselves. But sometimes having money and being able to go and do things isn't always what it looks like it is.
Right. The gift that you think it is.
Yeah, so we went to sleepaway camp and shit. And we went to day camp, sleepaway camp. When we were really young, we went to day camp. As we got a little older, my parents were like, all right, we're sending you away, like Long Island kids do.
Yep.
We went to the Poconos, we went to sleepaway camp. While I was there, my second year there, I was sexually assaulted by a male counselor. And full on, the whole 9. And I came home that summer, completely changed. I turned 9 that fall. School started, or that September, school started fall time. And shortly after that, I began like smoking pot, stealing beers, smoking, stealing cigarettes from my dad. So like I said, I have an older brother, Dylan, 20 months older than me. And we had family friends in the neighborhood that we hung out with every day. And they were like 13, 14 years old. So they were smoking pot. So naturally, just hanging around with them, like I wanted to like fit in. These kids were like my mentors, I guess, or like my idols at the time. And so that's how it started for me. I started smoking pot, drinking, and then as I got a little older, 11, 12, 13, I was smoking pot every day. And I had met kids through those older friends of mine who were selling weed. They were like in middle school or high school, so I would ride my bike, around the neighborhood, and I would go pick up a bag of weed, and then me and all my friends that I was in school with would smoke pot. And that assault that happened to me as a kid, I
did you
buried it.
ever
I didn't
say
tell
anything?
anyone
Ugh.
until I was 23.
I'm so sorry.
It was the first time that I told someone. So looking back at it, I was self-medicating and trying to stuff those feelings. And I remember like being in school, like the year after that happened, and getting like flashbacks of it. And like I remember like I would squeeze my eyes shut because I didn't want to think about it. And I would picture like a guillotine coming down on my neck, and like my head would roll away, and I would like poof, it would like go away, and I would stop thinking about it. So like I was
you were suffering from PTSD,
yes, I was
and like
unconsciously,
disassociation
exactly,
and
trying to stuff those feelings. And with no coping mechanisms, drugs and alcohol became my way of filling the void and hiding the feelings. So
when you look back, did you ever feel like you could say something? Like, obviously, I was sexually abused as well, and I think it's different for young boys. I think there's a whole different layer of shame that, like, I couldn't even begin to comprehend.
Oh, for sure. You know, like, yeah, I guess looking back, like, there was definitely times where I wanted to say something, but I was like, it doesn't really matter anymore.
Really?
Like, that's how I felt. Like, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, no. So I'll just keep it to myself. Plus, I didn't want people to, I didn't know how people would react.
Yeah.
And
were you afraid if people would believe you?
That never really crossed my mind. Like, oh, maybe they won't believe me, or maybe they think I'm lying or something. No, I never really thought about that. I just stuffed it.
Yeah.
I wanted it to go away. So, what was I going to say? It was like, once I stuffed it away, it kind of stayed away, you know? And it wasn't like something that I really, every so often I would be like, oh, shit, that happened to me, you know? And then I wouldn't think about it anymore for a while. Or whatever.
Did it manifest in other, like, as a kid, did you do good in school? Did you play sports? Did you have other outlets? Like, how were you after it happened? Like, before and...
Yeah, I regressed for sure. And I started acting out immediately. I was fighting, getting in trouble, not doing well in school. I wasn't concentrating. I didn't do my homework. But like anytime I applied myself,
you could do it.
I would do it. Like,
yeah.
Teachers would be like, bro, you're going to fail if you don't. I'd be like, all right. And I would do my homework. Whatever work I was behind on, I would finish. And then when the midterms came, I would ace them. When the finals came, I would ace them. The regents, I would ace them. And they would be like, how, like, you didn't even come to school. Like, how did you? And I'd be like, well, I'm not stupid. I just don't apply myself. Yeah. But when I do, I'll do well.
Yeah.
So, and then I used that energy in a negative way, but I didn't know. Like I said, like,
yeah, of course you don't know, you're a kid.
Exactly. My coping mechanisms became getting high and acting out, being like the derelict in class, getting in trouble. We were really bad kids. So I went to a school with all these rich kids, and you would figure like, oh, these kids are all like really good, but they were all fuck ups.
Yeah.
And they were all bad.
Yeah.
And kids were dying in my school, you know, getting in, you know, we had cars when we were 16. There was a student parking lot, and kids were driving to school, and they would be dying, you know, drunk driving accidents, or, you know, speeding, killing people, shit like overdoses.
Yeah.
And
premature adults, kind of.
Exactly.
Like being given too much power too soon.
And they all had money.
Yeah.
Every kid had a
wallet
pocket full of cash. Yeah. Their parents had trust funds and bank accounts, and we did all sorts of crazy things, man. We stole everything from school because our high school was loaded with everything, you know, those expensive calculators, laptops, scales. We would steal everything because we were selling drugs. We were doing all, and like we all had money, so everything was so accessible, and we had access to drugs because of the older kids, and it was a tight-knit school. Everybody knew each other. The young kids knew the older kids and vice versa. So what did the older kids do? They sold drugs. And what did the young kids do? We bought the drugs, and then we started selling them. So it was like a snowball, and most of those kids that I grew up with are doing nothing now.
Yeah.
Or they're dead, or they're in jail.
In and out of rehab.
Or their parents bailed them out, and then eventually they got their lives together, and they ended up going to college, and they have good jobs. A lot of them did end up, you know, are finance guys or lawyers or doctors or whatever it is that they became. But when I was 12, on Father's Day in 2001, my father's business exploded, literally, and burnt to the floor.
Oh shit.
and killed 3 FDNY guys and injured like 60 other NYPD FDNY guys.
Oh my
It was called the
gosh.
Father's Day Fire. All the men that died had children, and it destroyed my family because we lost my father's whole livelihood, millions of dollars, and they were trying to pin it on my father.
Really?
So the fire happened because these kids were doing graffiti on the back of the store with gasoline. They would put gas on the wall, spray paint over it, light it on fire, and the spray paint burns into the wall.
Oh fuck.
One of them kicked the gas can over, and it rolled down this ramp behind the store at the loading dock. And it rolled under the ramp, and right there was the water boiler. And the pilot for the water boiler was like only a couple inches off the floor. And the flames rose, and it caused a fire. And now this is the basement level of the store. And there's thousands of aerosol cans down there, propane tanks, all
Oh my
sorts of
gosh.
Exploded.
and
Oh
it
my gosh.
So the firemen came, long story short, they came in through the back. They were trying to control the fire. And when they were doing this, pressure was being created in the basement. And the firemen could hear the tops of all the aerosol cans popping off, and all the cans were leaking
Oh my
gas
gosh.
out.
Holy
So the firemen that were on the street level on the first floor, it was Father's Day, so everything's closed. They're trying to break through the gates that are shut and locked. They finally get through. They get to the basement door, and they open the door,
no.
and it was like a wind tunnel.
Oh no.
It's called the backdraft.
Yeah.
And the whole front of the store blew open. These guys got caught under the rubble, and they died. So when that happened, it completely changed our lives. We lost millions of dollars. We couldn't afford to live where we were living anymore, so we moved from the North Shore of Long Island to Astoria, Queens, which is where I spent the next half of my life. And I was in my freshman year of high school when that happened, so I got my whole life uprooted to Queens, where now I'm in a school with 4,000 kids in an urban area. Everyone is lower middle class now. I'm the minority as a white kid, and I was like, and then I really started acting up because
Yeah, your life was out of
yeah,
control.
you're moving me
needed
from
control,
my friends. I don't want to be here, and I really spiraled out of control. I really started. It was fun though, and I actually, if I didn't move to Queens, I wouldn't have found fighting. I wouldn't have become who I am today, and I met a whole new host of friends who I'm close like this with, and I found MMA in Astoria, Queens. I graduated high school, and at the time, the UFC was blowing up.
Yeah.
Ultimate Fighter show had just debuted.
What year is this?
2006.
Okay.
Stephen Bonner, Forrest Griffin, they put on the fight of their lives.
Yeah.
Spike TV, UFC, Frankie Edgar had just made his debut against Forrest Griffin. I remember watching that and being like,
Yeah.
if this little guy from New Jersey can do this, I can do this.
Yeah.
And he was my favorite fighter at the time. And
He's still my favorite
yeah,
fighter.
he's still, and we're like, I've known Frankie for years now. I ended up training with him, sparring with him. It was crazy. But I fell in love with MMA. And funny enough, I actually graduated high school, and I got accepted to Long Island University for pharmacy.
LIU.
LIU. I was gonna be a pharmacist,
Oh my
which
goodness.
eventually became my, pills were one of my drugs of choice. So it was
At
like
this
a funny.
time when you graduated, were you still just with like dabbling in selling weed and stuff,
So
or
I was
had you
selling
graduated?
drug. No, I was already. When I was 13, I had my first real experience with cocaine.
Oh my God,
I-
13.
yeah, I was
13.
sniffing coke.
Oh my God.
Like a lot, ecstasy, all the other drugs, Xanax, other pills. And then, so I started training at 17. 4 months later, I had my first amateur fight. I won, fell in love with MMA. I was 17. My parents had to sign a waiver for me to fight.
Yeah.
I fought a 27-year-old.
Holy
I
shit.
whipped his ass.
Fucking crazy.
I whipped his ass, fell in love with MMA. So, like, it's
You'd only been training for 4 months.
4
Did you like
months.
wrestle or anything?
I wrestled
in high
1 year in
school?
junior
Like,
high. Long Island is huge
Yeah.
on wrestling.
Yeah.
I wrestled 1 year in junior high, but then I was like too cool for wrestling. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
gay with the
Yeah.
spandex,
Yeah.
with the leotards or whatever. And I was like, I'm
Call
not
it a singlet.
a singlet, you know what I mean? Whatever. So sorry, my wife's a gymnast, so leotard,
you're fine, you're
singlet.
fine.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not wrestling. I'm gonna sell weed, And but
I'm cool.
I want to mention something because this is like something that I still feel in my gut. Like when I was younger, I always had this feeling like in my gut, like that there was something bigger for me. And I didn't know what it was. At the time, I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell drugs. I'm going to become a millionaire, and I'm going to open up businesses. And like being the prototypical like kid that goes to college and gets a 9-to-5 job, I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. And I remember like, so I moved to Queens, and I used to have to walk to the subway, get on the subway, and go to high school. So I would like, I'm in Queens, I'm all thugged out, baggy pants, backward, fitted hat.
White boy from Long
White
Island.
boy from Long Island. And I got my headphones on. Get Rich or Die Trying just came out.
Oh my god.
50 Cent. So I'm like walking to the subway, think I'm a tough
Bust
guy.
your head, boy.
Yeah. I'm hustler ambition, And in my head, I'm like, I got like a half ounce of weed bagged out in my pocket. I'm like, I'm gonna sell drugs and become like a kingpin.
Yeah.
But like that feeling of something bigger was like what was driving me, but I was putting it in a negative direction. But I thought that's like what I was supposed to do. I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And when I found fighting,
it changed.
And I was like, wait a minute, like maybe this is for me. So that summer after high school, when I had my first amateur fight, my dad was like, listen, you got to choose. Like, are you going to go to school? Because I was going to LA, it was a private school. He's like, I'm not about to spend $40,000 a year for you to flunk out. So what is it, fighting or school? And I was like, I'm going to fight. And my dad, I remember he was like rolling his eyes. He was
Did
like,
he?
oh yeah, fighting, that's a great idea, So, but that's what I did. A year into fighting, I hurt my neck. And I remember I was 18 years old. I was in a bar with my buddy, who I'm still close with. And at the time, he was selling Vicodin. And I'm complaining about my neck. And he's like, you want a Vicodin? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I take one. I never had any real experience with painkillers. I had a drink. We went outside. We smoked a joint. And I remember that feeling of the painkiller. He knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly.
Came over me.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about.
I don't.
With all your experience
mean,
with
The
you
warm-
never had surgery?
Yeah. I
So,
mean, but
The warm blanket.
The warm, dude, that's exactly how I explain it. The warm blanket came
It's-
over me. And I remember thinking, like, I've arrived.
that's a dangerous thought.
Oh, have you arrived?
This is it. I found the void filler. And within weeks, it turned into 20, 30 pills a day.
Within weeks?
Within weeks.
And you're
You get
18?
You get addicted like that. And then I found OxyContin. And that.
Yeah, now you're speaking
I
Kevin's
started-
language. He's like,
I started, I started the whole doctor shopping thing.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands of pills a month. I'm selling large amounts of weed. And my parents were like, what the fuck are you doing?
did they know?
They knew. And
Right
they
away?
They were very
Like-
lenient with me. And I'm 18 now, and they're like, what are we going to do? The kid's a fighter.
Yeah.
He's 18. We can't control him. So they like tried to like direct me, but they couldn't really control me anymore because I was my own man or whatever. And, I kept going. And then,
What were your brothers doing during this
so
time?
my older brother, same thing as me.
Okay.
Not like the drug dealer, hustler,
Yeah.
but the drugs and the partying. He was more of like a club guy,
Yeah.
going out,
Nightlife.
partying his ass off.
Yeah.
He spiraled out of control really fast, went to rehab when he was like 21, got sober, and never looked back.
Oh, good for him.
I
Did
kept
not.
going. Because I was able to, like, he, like, wasn't, a money guy, so, like, his resources ended fast for him. So, like, my parents were like, you can't, like, he was shooting dope. They were like, you can't be here. You can't live in our house. If you're gonna shoot dope under our roof, can't have you here because if you die here, then it's our fault. We'll help you if you want to get help, but if you don't want to get help, then you got to get out.
They weren't enabling him.
He was
That's
trying
really strong, though.
Yeah.
That's not easy
That's
thing to do
to,
as
it
a
was an
parent.
ultimatum I had to do.
Yeah.
And so, like, him being on the street, winter, he was like, all right, I'll get help. He went to rehab, came down to Florida for treatment, and that was it for him.
Wow.
But I was able to stay afloat because I was selling drugs. I was able to feed my habit. And I went to grave lengths to, fill my, fix my itch for the pills
Fill
and the
the
drugs.
void.
Exactly.
Anything.
So I kept going and going and going. And then
Do you remember a time when you were like the most, I don't want to say, like when you were just like, who the fuck am I?
yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah,
do you
that
wanna
was
share?
a few times. Yeah, so I mean, when I was 22, one, my best friend, I had given him a bunch of OxyContin. The next day, he didn't wake up. So he died using the drugs I gave him. And he was my best friend. And like, we hung out. We did everything together. We hung out. Like, I had 4 friends. We were tight. Like, and he died. And then I remember being in the funeral home, 300 people there, all my friends. And I'm in the funeral home bathroom sniffing oxys. And so his girlfriend was my now wife's best friend. So it was like the dynamic, and it destroyed me, losing him. And I really lost control. But that had happened, and I was like, you know what? Like, I had 8 amateur fights at that point. I was a 2-time amateur champion.
How the fuck are you winning fights
Yeah.
while
So-
you're fucking
Sniffing
doing
oxys.
that many?
I just was like tough and talented, and I was always like, I had a knack for fighting, so I would win.
Yeah.
And my last amateur fight, actually, I did end up losing a split decision. That day of the fight, though, I was sniffing oxy and cocaine. And I would go into fights and like I lost a split decision. And I was like, I was sniffing oxys and coke, like whatever.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I met this kid, Anthony Leone, who fought in the WEC, fought in Bellator. And he was like, bro, like he knew I had a problem. He was like, why don't you come upstate to Ithaca and train with us? And I went up to Bomb Squad, which is where Aljamain Sterling started. John Jones started there. And there was a bunch of guys up there that got to UFC, got to Bellator. I went up there for a month. Kicked cold turkey, which was terrible.
Cold turkey, really?
Yeah, cold turkey dip.
Off of oxys?
Yeah, I was there for a month, and there was a kid there that was making his pro debut. 3 days before the fight, he pulls out. And they were like, yo, you want to fill in for him? And I'm like, all right. I went in there and I won in the second round. I dropped the guy, knocked him down, choked him out. So I made my pro debut. I'm a month sober. I win. I feel like I'm on top of the world. That night in the casino, I relapsed. I remember I was like, I got to celebrate. I'm going to do some Opanas, which were like
OPs.
What's an Opana?
it's like a very
It's
high, it's like for cancer patients.
oxymorphone. It's
Yes.
morphine and oxycot.
Oh. Is it like
mixed together?
like Dilaudid?
It's like a Dilaudid
yeah.
almost, yeah.
It's
similar,
stronger, probably.
similar drug.
Yeah.
So
I've been prescribed Dilaudid. That's why I was
yeah,
like,
Dilaudid.
Comatose is
I was
you.
shooting Dilaudid. I was doing everything.
Oh my
Anyways,
God.
so that happened. I spiraled out of control. I ended up going to my first treatment center. I meet
by
some-
your choice.
No, my wife kicked me out because she found out that I was addicted to drugs.
She didn't know up until then.
She knew I had a problem, but she had just got wisdom tooth surgery, and she hid her pills, and I found them, and I stole them. So when she realized I stole them, she kicked me out of her house. Her mom kicked me out also,
Respect.
and I went to my
married
first.
then?
I'm married. No.
Okay,
We were
boyfriend,
just
girlfriend.
dating. Yeah,
Sorry to cut you off.
no, it's all right. So I went to my first treatment center. I was there 17 days. I meet some kids. They're like, let's get out of here. We leave. They show me how to use needles for the first time. I start shooting pills. That's when I started shooting oxys, Dilaudids, Opanas.
How old are you?
22.
And you've only had one pro fight.
One pro fight.
Were you training?
I was in and out of. So I was down
After
here
the
in Florida.
17
I went to
days?
treatment in Florida.
Okay.
And my wife, then girlfriend, knew this kid who was friends with someone who was partnered with Henry Hooft when they opened what was called Imperial Athletics at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was there. Rashad Evans,
Yeah.
Anthony Johnson,
Yeah.
Michael Johnson, all these guys.
Yeah.
So they were like, yo, why don't you go train there? So I'm like, all right. So I started training there. I'm in and out of the gym. I'm getting high. I'm smoking crack. I'm doing all sorts of crazy shit.
Yep.
And I'm down here in Florida trying to make it work. And I robbed, well, I shouldn't say it, but I got in trouble.
We'll edit
So,
that out. Don't worry.
I'm in the gym wrestling with Michael Johnson, right? He's getting
Yeah.
ready for a fight. And we're like in a wrestling stance, and he stands up and he's got this look on his face. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I turn around and there's 4 detectives.
Oh fuck.
They walk on the mats with their shoes on, put me in handcuffs.
Oh fuck.
So I got arrested in front of Henry
Is like
Hooft.
Henry there? Oh.
Henry's there. I got arrested in front of Henry Hooft. Mike Van Arsdale was there. Rashad Evans just won the title.
Oh my god.
All these guys, Anthony Johnson, Melvin Gallard's in there. All these dudes that everyone knows.
Yeah.
they're
I mean,
all-
also like who you probably look up to and
Exactly.
are aspiring to be like.
And they're
like,
all looking at me like, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah.
So I get arrested for home invasion, robbery, felony battery, and I'm facing 25 to life.
holy
Oh
fuck.
my
And
god!
I'm locked up in jail.
Oh my God.
22 you are at this.
22. I'm in the
I need a Zenachino for this. I'm
I'm in the
stressed the fuck out right now.
maximum security holding in West Palm Beach at Gun Club.
Oh, it's brutal over there.
And so the person that was supposed to testify against me never showed up to court.
Oh my God.
And he was a wanted felon. So he obviously figured, like, if I go there, they're going to arrest me too.
He's gone in the
So
way.
he never showed up to court.
Also, maybe God.
And God, God. So obviously the only thing that really got me through. But I go there, I'm shackled with 10 guys. We're all wearing jumpsuits. I'm shackled by my feet and hands. And my parents, luckily, hired me like a real lawyer. So I'm the first one up. And they're like, all right, they're going through their papers, and they're like, all right, the person that was supposed to testify against me hasn't showed up to court. They were like, he's not really a person that is, I don't know, I forget
Like
the word.
at risk for.
No, he's like not someone that's like really trustworthy.
Oh, okay.
I forget the word they use, and they're like, all right, case dismissed.
Shut
Oh
up.
my-
And they're
Really?
like, all right. They put me in the back. They give me my clothes, and they're like, all right, see you later. And they give me a bus pass, and I walk out the back, and I'm like,
Please tell me like that was it.
No.
Right?
not even close.
Oh my
So I
God.
walk out the back. I'm dope sick. I'm like, all right, I better fucking go get high right now. I jump in my truck, and I'm speeding to my.
You were just about to face
I'm
25.
speeding to my drug dealer down Federal Highway by Atlantic Avenue. I'm out on bond, $110,000 bond. And I get pulled over. I
Oh.
just got out of jail. And I have no insurance, no license. So as soon as I get pulled over, I'm like, if they arrested me, bond would have been
Done.
Revoked.
and I
Yeah.
would have been locked up until whatever, some other proceeding that they had to have. And so this is actually before the case was completely dismissed, but I was on like I had this temporary
ACOD.
at home, what do they call that? When
Like an ankle monitor?
When but not with one. It's like you have to be home at 6 p.m. and
Yeah,
you could leave
like
at 6 a.m.
probationary, like, yeah.
So I try to go get high. I get pulled over by this guy on a motorcycle.
Do
a
you
cop.
have people down here? Like, are you
the time,
like
not
at
really.
that time? Were
Not
you
really.
on your own?
I knew people, but not. Yeah, I was pretty much on my own.
Okay.
So I tell the cop as soon as I get pulled over, I'm like, listen, my license is suspended and I have no insurance. He goes, are you fucking serious? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, look, pull your car over and get out of here. So they impound my car. So I call my dad. I end up running to my drug dealer. I get high. I call my dad. I'm like, hey.
How many miles was it?
It was like 3 miles. I'm dope sick. I'm sweating my ass off. It's the middle of summer in Florida. So I call my dad. I'm like, hey, I got my car impounded. He's like, are you fucking serious? So
I can't even imagine what your dad is thinking
so
at this point.
he's
I
like,
would
all
be-
right, go get your fucking car. He pays. And then I get to my car, and on the console, the middle console, are a bunch of crack pipes laid out right there. So the cop obviously searched my car
Left it
before.
out, yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'll leave this here just so he knows I found this shit. And I'm like, holy shit, bro. I was going to go. I'm so lucky he let me off with nothing, dude. Anyways,
Oh my God.
I'm trying to get sober. I move into a halfway house. I'm relapsing. And I'm like, look, it's not going to work for me here. I got to come home. So I come home. And my parents are like, are you going to stay sober or what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stay sober. I end up getting high. They realize I'm high. They kick me out. So I go away to this crisis center, which was like a homeless shelter. They get me into this place called Samaritan Village, which is a long-term treatment center. It's a therapeutic community. So I go away for 6 months. I stay sober. I come out. I get right back in the gym. I have like 5-6 fights. I win them all. And I have shoulder surgery.
Oh fuck. What did you do to your shoulder?
I tore my labrum.
Oh.
I couldn't even pick my arm up. So I have to have surgery. And I'm doing good right now.
Were you nervous when you knew you had
Yeah,
to
I
have
knew.
surgery? Were you
Yeah.
like,
But like I had a reservation still. Like I was like, yeah, this is my way to get high for free. So
It doesn't count if they give it to me.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Were you
So-
looking forward to the surgery once?
Yeah, of course.
As an opiate addict,
of
I had the
course,
same
bro.
experience, and I had like 3 years sober, and then I had shoulder
Surgery,
surgery.
yep.
I'm like, I fucking can't wait.
Yeah,
Everyone's always dreading surgery.
No,
I'm
not
like,
me.
this is the day, the 10th.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
going
gonna-
in on surgery.
They're going to give me fentanyl, and they're going to give me a script to go home with.
Oxys, the whole nine.
So I come out, I'm like, all right, for a few weeks. And then one of the kids that I was in that therapeutic community with, we became really close friends. And he started training. He had an amateur fight. We were best buddies, this kid, Kevin Ryan. And he was like, yo, let's smoke some dust, some angel dust. I'm like, all right, it's not my drug of choice. I'll smoke some dust. I started smoking dust. And then within a week or two, I'm shooting heroin again.
Ugh.
And we're shooting dope with our other roommate, Mike, who was an older guy, lived in the Bronx, in the South Bronx. So I'm in the South Bronx, in the ghetto on Jerome Ave. I'm getting high, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, my parents find out. It's either you stay, it's either you get help or you get out. So I decide, all right, I'm gonna go into rehab again. I go to rehab,
Different one, same one.
different rehab. I get clean, stay sober, have a bunch of fights, win them all.
You win fights.
Oh
when
my
you're
God,
Like, he
like-
wins.
No, I know.
Like,
But I'm sober.
yeah, but still, like,
winning
you're winning
fights.
fights.
Right, but like
yeah.
you're like taking all this time off
Yeah.
of training to
If
go to
you-
rehab.
Yeah,
Like,
I
how
know.
did you get better?
Like-
at fighting?
I don't know.
Not how did you get sober, but like how did you get better at fighting
I
during
just-
this time?
I
What
just-
the fuck?
I just had a knack for it, man. And
That's
I love
awesome.
jiu-jitsu. I've been, at this point, I've already been training for like 7 years, 8 years. So I get to 9-0 as a pro. And I have a big fight for CFFC. It's a big regional promotion. And title fight,
Who was it?
Jeff Lentz. He was on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
So title fight, I win. I'll be 10-0. And I was gonna get a UFC contract if I won. Great. I'm winning the fight. Third round comes, I get knee to my face. I win the third round. Between the third and the fourth round, the judges stop it. TKO, doctor stoppage. I broke my medial wall and my orbital floor. My eye is like this. I get rushed to the hospital. The doctor's like, they took an x-ray of my face and they're like, listen, it's possible you're blind in your eye.
Oh fuck.
Because the nerve of my eye was sitting between the fractures. And they could see the bones. And they're like, usually when we see this, you have either lost your vision or partial vision or your eye has real damage. And they're like, the only way we'll know is if the swelling comes down, your eye opens up and you can see, then great. If not, we can pry it open right now. And I'm like, pry it open.
Let's do it.
I'm still in my fight shorts. I got hand wraps. I'm covered in blood. My parents are with me bedside. I'm in Atlantic City at a hospital. And they're like, listen, we're going to have to give you a shot of morphine. And my parents are like, he's a recovering heroin addict. And they were like, listen, his eye is so bad. He has to have surgery Monday morning. And he's going to be in the hospital for 5 days. And we're going to be pumping him full of drugs. And I could see my parents like just
Their
start
faces fall.
crying.
Yeah.
Just start crying. And I'm like, wait, like, and the doctor says to me, this is probably your last fight ever. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm going to the UFC. And the doctor looked at me like this. And just shook his head. And I was like, everything just melted right there. For me.
Did it feel real? Like, did you?
Oh.
Were you? Yeah.
I was like, this is it. All right, fuck, I'm done. Fighting's over. So they're like, all right, we're going to give you the morphine. I'm like, give it. And that fucking warm blanket came over
Yep.
me. And I knew right there, I'm fucked.
You feel it going through the like in the
I
hospital. You feel it going through the IV into your arm
You
and
get
through your
those
body.
pins and needles in your feet.
Yeah.
Hot and warm. And they pried my eye open. It took 2 doctors, one for my lower eyelid, the other one's on my upper eyelid. They finally get it open. And I'm like, I can see. And they're like, all right, great. Now move it in this direction, that, every direction. And they're like, all right, like this is really good news. We don't know how this is possible. God. But you still have to have surgery. So they put a big plate in my face. It sits like this. It's like an L in my eye.
Really?
Yeah. And I broke the medial wall and the orbital floor.
Damn.
So I come home from surgery. They gave me a script of OxyContin. The real ones.
What year is this now?
2015. This is
2015.
May 2015.
Okay.
And they give me the 15 milligram OxyContins, the green ones. eat them all.
Sorry, it's
And
not funny.
I stay,
the baby ones. Yeah.
I stay clean for 6 weeks. My eyes swollen shut for like 3 weeks, and then once it opens up, I have double vision because the nerve and the muscles of my eye are so inflamed that like it's causing double vision. I'm wearing these stupid glasses that are super thick so that it like brings my vision together and I can see normally. And it was just really miserable. And my parents were like, "All right, we're gonna go to their summer house, upstate New York." They're like, "You gonna be okay for the weekend?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm sitting there, and at the time, and like, so I had given up like all hope. I'm super depressed. I'm eating everything.
Yeah.
I gained like 40 pounds. I'm like 195 pounds of just fat and bones.
Yeah.
And I'm super depressed. And I remember sitting there. It's like 99 degrees in Queens, New York. I'm in my living room, sitting in the dark, like no TV on, and all I could hear is the AC, like clinking, like clink, clink.
Yep.
And I'm like, fuck, I'm going to get high. I call my dealer.
You're by yourself, and you're just like, you
Yeah.
just made the decision.
I'm like, fuck, I'm going to get high.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes, I was shooting dope. And from then on, I went absolutely fucking nuts until that December. So I went nuts.
From that
my
summer.
parents kicked
6
me
months.
out. Yeah, my parents kicked me out. I'm homeless, panhandling, homeless shelters, motels.
What
couch
happened with the girl?
surfing.
The girl's like, fuck
She's
you.
been gone for
Yeah.
5 years. I haven't talked to her in like 5 years. And so I miss Thanksgiving with my family. Christmas comes. I am doing everything I can to get money. I'm robbing people. I'm stealing shit. So I rob a drug dealer and I score like 10 grand. So I'm like, this is it. It's Christmas week. I'm alone. I buy a massive amount of heroin, massive amount of cocaine. I go to a motel across the street from the Queensbridge housing projects, which is like the largest housing projects in the world.
Yeah.
And it's Christmas Eve. And I'm going nuts. I'm shooting
By yourself.
by myself. I'm shooting heroin. I'm shooting coke. I'm hallucinating because I've been up for days. I don't know what. I think people are following me. I think there's cops in the room with me. I'm looking under the door. I'm looking out the peephole. I'm looking out the window.
Paranoid as fuck, yeah.
Finally, I shoot. I'm like so high. I'm like, all right, I better come down from this. So I shoot a bunch of heroin and I overdose. And what I think happened is that I crashed into like the desk and I ripped like the lamp and the desk down. And like I must have made a bunch of noise because someone had called the cops or the front desk and they called the cops and the cops busted the door down and like Narcan me there and they wheel me out. And I remember I came to outside. It's like 4 a.m. or something, 5 a.m. And I remember
Christmas
it's
Day.
so cold. I'm wearing just jeans, no socks, no shirt. And I'm like on a gurney outside of the hotel and it's like flurrying and like there's Christmas lights in the background and there's like mad cops around me. And I remember like looking at my body and I was so like amped up that there was like steam like pouring off of me. And they put me in the ambulance, and I'm with all the cops in the ambulance, and I'm like, "Where's my drugs?" And they're like, "Dude, fucking kidding me? Like, we're taking your drugs." And I'm like, am I going to jail?" And they're like, "Listen, it's Christmas Day. You have a lot of drugs on you, but we don't feel like doing the paperwork and dealing with you. So we want to go home. It's Christmas. We want to go home to our families. We're gonna go cut you loose at the hospital because we know you're a drug addict.
Right.
It's not like you're like out here selling drugs, like out of the hotel, you know.
Right.
So I'm like, all right. So I get to the hospital. I'm so fucking coked out that they give me a bunch of Valium and Haldol IV. I pass out. I wake up like 12 hours later, super dope sick, and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm like, where's my money? And like I feel my money in my pocket. I'm wearing jeans. I got nothing else. I ripped the IV out of my arm. Put my hospital gown on, I got hospital socks on, and I walk out the hospital.
Oh my God.
And it's fucking freezing. And I'm like 3 miles.
You still haven't hit rock bottom? This isn't enough for you?
This was it for me. So I walk home, and I knock on my door, and my parents open the door, and they're like ghosts. And like I could tell I ruined their whole holiday season. They don't know where I've been for weeks. And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Look, I need sneakers and like a jacket, and I'm going to detox." All right. They're like, "You can't come in here though." Okay. They give me sneakers and clothes. I go to Flushing Hospital, detox, which was a shithole, and I get clean. And they bring me to Creedmoor, which is a psych ward, but they have a treatment center on the compound. And I was there for 45 days. I went in there like 160 pounds of bones and skin. I came out like 210 pounds of just disgusting fat. And I was like, all right, well, I guess it's time to train.
Yeah.
But when I was in the hospital, so I had this guy trying to help me. I was going to AA meetings. I've been to a bunch of meetings. At that point, I've already been to like 13 rehabs, multiple psych wards, multiple crisis centers, homeless shelters, therapeutic communities. I've been in like 33 or 34 facilities in total from 22 to 27 years old because of my addiction. Jails, whatever you want to. And he's like, "Bro, you got to start doing the steps. You got to do the 12 steps. You got to go to AA. You got to go to me." Okay, fine. Finally, I decided I'm going to take suggestions. I'm not going to do it my way because obviously what I'm doing is not working. So I do it. I go through the motions, and I've been sober ever since. But there was a moment when I was in Creedmoor, and it was like January 5th or February 5th or some shit. It was January 5th. I just had gotten to Creedmoor. I just got out of detox. 10 days before I just overdosed, and I was wearing a hoodie and sweatpants, and like I was like still sick, but like okay feeling, and it snowed like 5 feet, and I remember watching the snow pile up, and I was looking out the window, and I remember thinking like, "Oh fuck, I'm stuck here." And then, but I remember like the Christmas cheer was like still in the air, like Christmas decorations were still up, and it was a Friday night, and they like gave us some free time Friday nights, so people were like playing cards, like playing games and shit, and like watching movies. And I remember thinking like, this sucks, but it's really not that bad. I had nothing. I was broke. Credit cards were maxed out. Driver's license revoked. I owed money to people. I did a lot of people wrong. I had nothing. And I remember thinking like, all right, it could be worse.
Yeah.
And I just built from there. I started going to meetings. I did the 12 steps. And within a year from there, I got signed to UFC.
Shut the
within
fuck.
a year from that time.
Stop
So within
it.
your first year of sobriety,
So I'm
you got
9-1.
signed.
I ended up losing that fight from a TKO stoppage.
Right.
I get out of treatment. I'm 210 pounds of fat, and like 5 months later, I fight at 145. I win the CFFC title. I win by head kick knockout. I fight a few weeks later, short notice at 55. I win by rear naked in the first round. And then like 7 months later, I fight Bill Algeo, who's in the UFC now, to defend my title on Dana White's Looking for a Fight show. And I won. I did a really good job, and I got signed that night.
You were 12-1 when you went
I was
into
12-1 at that point. Yeah, I got signed. Yeah.
My God.
2017. I was sober like a year or 13 months or something like that.
No major changes in your first year, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Was your family religious or spiritual at all?
No. So my dad's a Jew. My mom's Catholic. And like when I went to Hebrew school for 2 years, and then my mom was like, "No more Hebrew school. You're fucking celebrating Easter and Christmas." All right. So now I'm I would eat like lox and bagels in the morning. At nighttime, I'm eating pasta and meatballs. So like there was no like, and my parents are not religious at all.
Yeah.
Like they just like were like regular people. Like,
Was the program your first introduction to like spirituality, like a
Yes.
higher power?
So without AA, I would never have found God. And, at first I used like my friends that died as my higher power. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this for them because I know they wouldn't want me to go out the way they went out,
Yeah.
And then I realized like, there's something bigger than just my dead friends. And then I started calling him Jesus, and that's what it's been since then. And I've been sober for over 8 years now.
That's amazing. What's your sobriety date? December
27, 2015.
Okay.
2015.
Now let me ask you a question. So I've had on paper, to the average person, it's like, okay, yeah, overdose, detox, getting arrested, like he should have stopped a long time ago.
Yeah.
I can relate, not to everything, but I can relate to the institutions, the, car accidents, a number of things that should have, scared me straight to get sober. What was it for you that time when you went home to your parents and asked for the shoes and the jacket to go to rehab?
I just couldn't do it anymore, dude. I've panhandled, I've stolen, I've robbed, I did all sorts of things to get my fix, and like that last run for me, like I started shooting a lot of cocaine, which really became like my drug of choice. Like I had to do heroin because like if I didn't I would get sick, and I loved heroin, but like I was more excited about cocaine, and it would make me insane. I would shoot coke and I would go into manic, like how meth addicts are paranoid, and it's same thing with coke. And at the time, like every time I shot coke, I would have a seizure.
Oh my God.
And if I didn't have a seizure, I didn't do enough. So like that was what I was getting off on, was having a seizure. And like the mental anguish, like I thought like I thought midget cops were following me. I thought all sorts of shit was happening. I thought people were looking at me through windows, through cars. So I just was like, I can't do this anymore, man.
You're losing your mind.
I was losing my mind. I was destroying my body. I remember being in treatment, like I was there for like 20 days or something. And I'm like, all right, I feel good. I'm not really sick anymore. I better start doing some push-ups or some shit. So I get down and I do like 5 push-ups. And I'm like, I couldn't even crank out 10 push-ups. And I'm like, I'm a professional athlete. And I can't even do fucking 5 push-ups. And like looking at my arms, like the track marks, I had fucking track marks for weeks, bruises. I still have a scar on my arm. Look at that. From jamming here and here, just jamming a needle in there over and over. That will be with me forever, that scar. And it's a reminder, but like, I was like, I destroyed my body. I destroyed myself mentally, physically.
Did you have anyone left at that point either? Like,
yeah, I mean, my family was still there for me. When I asked for help, they were there. And I had people that like were sober, that like knew me, and they knew I had like a career still, and they were like, you can do this. Like, you have time. You're only 27. Like, it's not too late for you.
Yeah,
you're not like 50 years old. Like, even then, it's not too late when you're 50. Like, I know people that get sober when they're 50, and they're 75 now. They got 25 years sober, and they've rebuilt everything, and they have great lives. Like,
and the lens fight was, you were winning the fight, and it was
fight,
stopped. Like,
it's not like I lost that fight. I got like, it was out of my control. Like, so, yeah. And then within these last 8 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs. Things that like.
Yeah, will you talk about that for a minute? Because I think that there's a lot of people who think that like, oh, if I fix my addiction or my coping mechanism, or I like healing, like you're never healed. No. Like healing is a journey.
Like my drugs and alcohol, like you said earlier, were just a symptom. Like that was like a formality. Like I did that because I didn't know what else to do.
Yes.
Like I don't have a drug and alcohol problem anymore. I have a thinking problem. I always had a thinking problem, and I always will have a thinking problem, because even in my sobriety, I've filled my void with other things, whether it be doing crazy workouts. And people are looking at me like, what are you doing? Like you're going a little, like you're overtraining, or food, or gambling, or sex, or anything. I could fucking get addicted to coloring books if I want to. Like, if I like it, I'm gonna go all out with it. Like, and I won't stop. And that gets me in trouble. Like I've done a lot of things in my sobriety that I'm not proud of. Like when I first got sober, before I got back with my wife, like it turned to sex.
Yeah.
And like Tinder and Bumble was really popular, getting popular at the time. And I was swiping through the encyclopedia of Tinder. I met every girl.
Listen, we talk about that a lot. How like, it's not.
No.
That's just the thing. It's really like, it's internal. It's everything. Like
being judgmental, being there's so many things. Social media. I'll stare at my phone thinking something's gonna pop out of it and like make all my problems go away, or like I try to get validation from my like social media, like
Likes,
someone's
people
gonna
saying nice
someone's
things,
gonna
yeah.
like DM me and say something amazing or give me something that I need.
Kevin Lanning.
When
coming
exactly. This is it. I found it through social
This is
media.
the big ticket to get on the big podcast.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
So I mean, I'm still,
Yeah.
and I always will have to work on things that I'm not good at, and that like I need help with. Like
We talk a lot about, so like for me, my core wound was like feeling worthless, feeling unlovable, not like having to earn love, becoming worthy of, and I used external things and being a gold medalist and like earn. And Kevin talked a lot about, his was like fear and like
Fear, resentment.
fear and resentment were like his big things. And you said you have a thinking problem, and I wonder if you can like dive a little deeper on that. Like, what do you mean when you say that? Because I think probably
so,
a lot of people have that. Like, what do you
when
mean?
things happen to me, it could be very negative or very positive. I'll react in, it could be any way, and it might not be the correct way to. You see it all the time. People get money and fame, and they lose control, and they become a different person, and that's all positive stuff. But it still made you do things that you're not proud of. I mean, look at P. Diddy.
Right.
Oh my God.
The guy's got everything. Look what he's doing. What the fuck?
I don't know.
And then something negative happens. And it's like, that's more understandable for why you would act out and be angry and pissed off. But you can choose to react negatively to it, or you can be like, you know what?
Respond.
I have to use this as I have to rejoice in my sufferings, like God says, right? Like, so I have to I need a set of boundaries for everything that I do. Like when I fight, like my last fight, I won in my hometown in New York City, MSG,
Hell
knockout,
yeah, you did.
first round over an Olympian. And, my wife was like, I gave you November and December, and you fucking stared at you were like the man.
loved it.
And
I
it's
love,
like,
I love
she's
your
like,
wife.
but
Can
now-
we have her on?
but now it's March,
yeah. Yeah.
and no one gives a fuck anymore about November. You know what I mean?
God
So,
bless her.
and I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
And that was like a negative way of reacting to something positive that happened to me. And so it's like,
I think you touched on something really important about boundaries, though. Like, people often think about boundaries like with other people, but you have like internal boundaries are fucking like they're money.
Yes.
That's where it's at. Like, if I don't have boundaries with myself, I can't enforce boundaries with other people. Like, I have to hold myself accountable. I have to live by my moral code, my standards, my set of beliefs.
Yes.
And when I do that,
so I've seen like problems for people, all different kinds of problems kill them. So I'll mention, I had one of my best friends, Sergio De Silva. I met him like one of the first days that I walked into that MMA gym in Astoria, and we became super close. And he became one of my best friends. And he was a family man, super successful. He was James Gandolfini's personal assistant for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
James bought him a private chauffeur company. He owned this whole company fleet of cars. He chauffeured Cher, Kevin Garnett, all these superstars, had an amazing life, college degree, 2 children that are super successful athletes. And he never did drugs, never drank alcohol, but he was a degenerate gambler. And he comes to me one day and he's like, hey, like, do you know anyone that will let me borrow money? I'm like, yeah, I actually know a guy that like does that for, like, he's a loan shark. So a few months later, the loan shark calls me. He's like, hey man, have you spoke to Sergio? I'm like, no, what's going on? He's like, well, he owes me $50,000 and he hasn't answered my phone call. And he's like, it's not my money, it's their money. Meaning like
Yep.
some organized crime family. And he was like, I have to do what I got to do to get this money back. Whatever. He squares the situation up by robbing a bank. So he gets caught. He leaves a piece of his pinky fingerprint on a window, gets caught, arrested, sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. The next day, one of the jury members calls his lawyer and says, hey, I couldn't sleep. One of the prosecuting person on the prosecuting, or one of the jury members was a cousin of one of the prosecuting lawyers. What? The lawyer calls the judge, case dismissed, new lease on life, kid doesn't have to go to prison anymore. He swears his life to Jesus, blah, blah, blah. A few months later, I fight in Fight Island. I win. He sends me a bet slip for $13,000. Hey, if anyone ever tells you they believe in you, tell them to put their money where their mouth is. And I'm like, bro, you're gambling? And he goes, no, I'm not. I knew this was a lock. I knew you were going to win. So I made this bet and I won.
What are you doing?
A few months later, he gets into a hole again, hangs himself in his daughter's bedroom.
Jesus.
And he, from the outside, everyone loved him. Yeah. Family man, would do anything for you, give you his shirt off his back. And like, I watched gambling kill him.
Yeah.
You know, and then I had to go look at my best friend in a casket. Jeez. All because of an addiction. And it's like, what void was he filling by gambling? Yeah, a money void, you could say, but really, he was getting high gambling, you know, and that's what it does to people. It's like, it's a tangible thing and it's a brain thing, just like sex or sugar or any other.
It's a release.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
What could he have done to change his life? So those two kids I was talking about that I was roommates with in Samaritan Village, one died 3 years ago. That kid, Kevin, the kid that became an amateur fighter, he died of a fentanyl overdose. This past December, the other kid, Mike, the kid from the Bronx.
Who shot for the first time, the older dude.
No, that wasn't his first time. He was been...
Oh, okay. But he was the older one that was shot.
He was the older guy. He was sober. He died December 18th of a drug overdose. Two kids. So... And we had another friend we had 4 kids in that room, me and 3 other guys that are all dead. Wow. And I'm like, what could he have done? And I feel like, what could I have done to change I could have been there for all these kids. Sergio, Kevin, Paul, Mike, fucking all these kids that I know that are dead, multiple other kids. And it's like, and I'm watching different diseases, different problems kill people. Food. I've seen food kill people. Heart attacks, you die. I've seen all sorts of
sex
shit.
Addiction. You get AIDS and you die.
You lose your family. Your wife divorces you. You lose all your money. All because you were cheating on your... And it's like we have like, as humans, and especially as addicts, we just have like we're different than other people. Or so it seems. You know, like we do a drug and we can't stop. Some people do drugs and they're like, yeah, I'm good. I'll never have to do that again. And so like what I've noticed is, so like what my wife was talking about with the phone and the social media, she's like, you're not, you know why? You were so plugged into God before that fight. Then you win and you've drifted away from him.
Yeah.
And you're staring at your phone. You're looking for money, this, fuck, let's do this, you know. And she's like, you got to plug back into God.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Who is this lady?
I know.
Miss Gambino.
Oh my God.
She's the superstar.
Dude, she's your angel,
She's like.
When did she come back into the story?
So I get sober.
Let's give Miss Gambino some light.
I'm in the UFC
2015 December, you get sober.
I'm in the UFC for 2 or 3 years. We start talking. She's like, the only way I'm going to talk to you is if we talk about God.
Ooh.
All right.
Yes.
Wait.
I'm here for her. Yes.
She's going to love that.
Yes.
So I'm like, all right. So that's how our...
Had you completed your steps? I
completed it in the first 6 months or so. So we start talking about God. And I've known her since first grade. And we started dating when we were 8. We started dating when we were 18.
That's amazing.
Fell in love. That was the one. I was her one. And then drugs came, ruined it. We didn't speak for 5 years. So one day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna text Christina. So I text her and she goes, Jared, what? How did you know? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, I unblocked you today.
Dude, God.
Jared was creeping. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was texting her every day, just waiting for a response.
I got goosebumps.
She's like, I was like, I haven't even thought about you in months. She's like, Jared, I literally unblocked your number today.
Oh my God.
With the idea of maybe because she sees me from a distance, obviously.
Right,
I'm in UFC, I'm sober.
Right.
And I text her. And she's like, but I will not talk to you unless we're talking about God. So we started talking. 3 months later, she's in New York. I'm back. So I moved to Milwaukee to train at Rufus Sport for like a year and a half. I came back for Thanksgiving. She was in New York. She had bought an RV and she was like going around the country. She's on.
Dude, I want to be her friend.
Kayla really loves her.
I'm in love.
She was a gymnast. She was an elite gymnast, college gymnast. She went to Rutgers, but then she started doing Ninja Warrior. She was on the show.
No way.
Dude,
4 times.
She's a badass.
Ninja Warrior.
She was on the show 4 times. So she was traveling the country in her RV, going gym to gym to gym to be a better, become a better competitor. So she's like, I'm in New York. I'm like, we should meet up. She's like, I don't know. And so we did. We meet up, and within 3 days, we're
Signed,
a
sealed,
couple.
delivered.
We're a couple
Yeah.
again. And she comes to Thanksgiving at my parents' house or at my family friend's house, and within 3 months from that, I proposed to her. We got engaged, and then we got married. COVID came, fucked up the whole wedding day. Finally, we get married 3 years later. So we've been married for like 2.5 years now.
Dude, that's awesome.
I love love.
I love that story. Dude, that is
great.
an amazing story.
It's pretty crazy.
But that is totally God. Like,
100%.
she unblocks you and then
Yeah.
you text. Like,
Yeah.
what?
I know.
I'll only meet with
God
you
is
if we
just like
talk
all
about God.
over your
I know.
life. I
It's
love
very
it.
strange. So like these, UFC.
Tell her to come next time. Like, I want to hang out with her.
Yeah, can we have
We
her on?
actually, she was so mad at me because I was in the parking lot.
Was that her?
In our marriage? No.
Oh.
In our marriage group. We have a marriage group every Wednesday. It's it's through Elevation Church.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, you're going to go to do a podcast during our marriage group. I'm like, I got to do it.
I literally came here
So,
from my Bible study.
I signed in. I drove down here, listen, in the marriage group, whatever. So
I love that. Good for you.
But these 8 years have not been easy for her or me.
I'm sure not.
UFC, not the easiest thing to thrive in.
How do you,
You know?
manage? Because it can become an unmanageable situation very quickly. And what do you do? How do you stay sober? How do you stay?
I mean, obviously, I have AA.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sponsor. I have, we're in Florida, so everyone here is sober. All my friends are sober. My brother's sober. My parents know very well about the addiction. My wife obviously knows. Everyone around me knows about sobriety or is sober. So that helps a lot. And everywhere I go, there's a sober person. So that really helps. But at the end of the day, it's just me.
Yep.
And the only thing that stops me from doing stupid shit is God. So praying every morning throughout the day before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
Praying with my wife. Reading scripture. Doing Bible plans. Doing AA work. One of the biggest ones, probably right under God, is helping others.
Do you sponsor?
Number one, I sponsor guys. However I can help people.
No, you use your platform in a really big way.
Yeah. So,
love
I'm
that.
partnered with treatment centers. I help people get into treatment. And so that's what I do. But like God, 1, helping others, 2, which is the most fulfilling thing that I can do. God and helping others. And, the steps in AA. So like shiny shit doesn't do it for me.
I respect that.
So like I bought a car 2 years ago. Like a RS5, Audi RS5. It's fucking super fast. It's beautiful. I fucking love it. It's like the last thing I needed. So fucking expensive.
Okay, don't. He's over here laughing. What kind of car do you drive, Kevin?
Nah, we're going to keep it moving.
Come on. Spit it out.
Maserati.
All right, so you know the deal, bro.
Yeah, I do know
It's
the deal.
not-
It's not. Yeah, it's
All it's cracked up to be.
It's and especially
Every time I get in, I'm like, I really love this car. But then like the payment comes out of my account every month and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And like, so I'm closing on a new house.
Congratulations.
My second home.
Amazing.
On the 12th of April, but I'm like, I gotta make room for like. So now I'll have 2 mortgages. Well, I'm renting one house out, but still, I'm like, I gotta get this car back.
Yeah.
And like, the payment is so high. I'm going to get like a regular car tomorrow.
Good for you.
Like, I'm going to get like an A4 or like an A3 maybe.
I love it.
And I'm like, why?
Of course, it's an Audi, but
Yeah.
but
Okay.
he's downsizing. He's downsizing.
No, but
okay.
like,
you know
what
what?
I'm saying?
I
Baby
get what you're
steps.
saying,
Baby
dude.
It's
steps.
like
I get it.
a third of the payment of my other car.
It's grown up.
Yes, exactly. So when we got married, my wife was like, guess what? I bought you a wedding gift. And I'm like, no fucking way. What is it? And she's like, I got you a Rolex. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. So I opened the box. I'm like, holy shit, it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
She's like, all right. So I put a down payment on it. I put the rest on my credit card. You have to pay the rest off.
Yes.
And I was like,
I really
I'm
love her.
fucking bewildered. I'm like, what are you?
Bewildered?
Yo, she's
I'm like-
gangster. I like her.
I'm like, what are you? What kind of gift is this? It became a burden.
It's a gift
It
that
took
keeps
me
giving.
like a year to pay it off, and like I had
Wow.
to buy this box that spins to keep it ticking.
yeah, so
cost
it
200
vibrates.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Cost $250
Wow.
for the box. I'm
That's
like, what
fancy.
the fuck? So I wear it like once.
You look good at UFC 299.
Once every so
Yeah, he
often. Once every so often, I wear it, and like I'll walk by it in my room. I'm like, cool, the fucking Rolex
Yeah.
that I don't need.
Yeah.
And like, so the point is, like, yeah, it's nice to have nice things. It's nice to be in the spotlight. It's nice to fight on ESPN or a pay-per-view. But like, the shiny shit is not fulfilling. It gives me.
Almost enough is never
How
enough.
about Kayla when you fight, and you're like, I'm the fucking man or the woman. I'm the best. Fuck you all. And then like 3 days goes by, and you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, how come people aren't cheering for me
Yeah.
anymore?
No,
And
it's
then
like
within a week, I'm like, I gotta fucking fight again now,
Yeah.
like to get that feeling back.
Yeah.
So like, yes, winning is the best feeling ever. Accomplishment, UFC or whatever big league you're in, and it's like, the glory comes and goes, and then, I'm not gonna be a fighter forever. So what the fuck am I gonna do for the other, hopefully 60 years of my life?
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
You're the third.
exactly.
You're the
Yeah.
third wheel on here now. There's a job here for you, Jared. Anytime you want to come, and
I
be
would
with
love
us-
to.
dude.
Oh, you're the best.
I would love to.
Yeah.
That's it.
So basically,
So,
I
like-
just got fired, and now it's
No,
going to become the
three.
Bros podcast.
No, us three.
Kevin and Jared. Right?
It looked really good.
So, like, God fulfills me
Yeah.
forever, eternally.
Explain
Helping
that to
others
people, though.
is
What
priceless.
like you are obviously plugged in, you're dialed in, you're doing your faith without works is dead.
Yes.
So you're doing the thing, and you're around a group of people who bring that out in you, and who are your brothers and sisters, and like make that possible for you. What do you mean when you say you're fulfilled by God? Like, is it
All right. So
is it like a peace? Is it a presence?
this is like
it a
I get a feeling when I pray and when things happen that are like I can't explain. I'm like, only God could have done this. That is like so overflowing that nothing else can compare to.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna talk about something that happened to me that was like one of the biggest wins of my life. So I'm 4 years sober. I just make 4 years, right? Me and at the time she was my fiance, Christina, were arguing like crazy. We're going through a really tough time. It's COVID, or like COVID was just ending. So like things are all out of whack. Her business, like she lost so much money because of COVID. I wasn't doing great financially. There was all sorts of issues happening. Our relationship was really suffering, and she kicks me out of the apartment. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fucking New York, fuck it. And I'm in full-blown relapse mode. So I go back to Queens. My parents let me in the home. I'm sober. I go to my home group from Queens where I first got sober, celebrate my 4 years, but I want to get high. And one night, I said, fuck it. I'm getting high tonight. and I'm like, I can't stop thinking about shooting cocaine. So I'm like, fuck it. I call my dealer, who I haven't called in 4 years, and I'm like, there's no way he's gonna answer the phone. And it like rang twice, and he's like, yo, what's up?
Oh,
and I was like, what the fuck?
God.
So like when I look back at it, I'm like, that's the devil was waiting. Like that 4 years, he was just doing push-ups, waiting for me to have a moment where I was gonna call and he was gonna be right there for me. I'm like, I answer the phone. I'm like, he answers the phone. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I haven't called a drug dealer in 4 years. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. And I'm like, are you around? And he's like, yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And
my God.
And he hangs up, and I remember thinking, like, I didn't even fucking tell him where to meet me. But he knew exactly where to meet me because we met in the same fucking spot every time. And I'm like, holy shit, it's happening. I'm going to get high. So I'm like, all right, let's go to CVS first, get some needles. It's like 10 p.m. in Queens, fucking freezing cold. Same time that I got sober, or that I ended up on that gurney.
Yeah.
4 years prior.
Same time, freezing cold, snow on the floor. I'm driving to CVS. I remember I had my hood up, and I'm praying to God the whole time, God, you got to fucking do some shit. Because if you don't, I am getting high tonight. So I'm in CVS. We're in Queens, New York, so everything's open. There's like 10 people online. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm super antsy, and I'm sitting there praying to God, God, please, please. And I see the register where the pharmacy is. There's this book, and it's on like the middle shelf. I remember it clear as day. And it looks like this book should have been in like some ancient museum or like in the Vatican or some shit, like, or like it's like the Pope's book or some crazy shit. And I'm like, what the fuck is that book? And like, it's like sitting between like a box of Tic Tacs and Skittles or some shit. And I'm like, fuck it. I get off the line and I pick up the book and I turn it over, and on the cover it says How God Deals with Tough Times. And as soon as I read it, the girl at the register was like, are you ready, sir? And I looked at her, and I looked at the book, and I was like, ugh. And I put the book down, and I went outside, and I called my sponsor. And I'm like, yo, I'm literally about to get high right now. He picked me up, the same guy that I got sober with when I first got out of treatment. It's Queens, everything's open. So we went to a diner, got a cup of coffee. I'm like, bro, I literally just called the drug dealer. He's like, all right, bro. Good on you for calling me. It's chill. We went to a meeting at 12 a.m. in Manhattan. I come home. I tell my parents, like, yo, this happened tonight.
Accountability.
Go home. I tell my wife. And I don't get high. And, like, that feeling of, like, of the pull of the devil, like, was there still. But, like, I had just let everyone know what was going on. So I was like, all right, the gig's, it's up.
Yeah.
And
when you share your problems, it becomes less.
Exactly. And I never got high. And that was like the first time where AA, the program, really like played out in my life, when they say like, call someone,
pick up a phone,
pray, do some fucking work, read some literature. Don't get high. Just don't drink. Don't do drugs. And, feelings pass. But could that book have been there and have been a big coincidence? Maybe. Do I think it was divine intervention? Yes. It was so subtle, but so powerful that, like...
Oh, that's God, baby.
The point is that if I wasn't, for the last 4 years, praying to God, relying on him, and while I was going to CVS that night, praying to God for something, give me something, a sign, anything... I thought like someone was gonna have to like tackle me to stop me.
Right. Like you're gonna have to run into like your sponsor is gonna have to be at that CVS too. Like
so, like it was enough.
Yeah.
And God was like,
"Are you sure,
motherfucker?" Like,
but what I love about that story is that, and this is true in life. Like He gave you the choice. You looked at the book, and then you took the action.
Yes.
To go call your sponsor and do something different.
Exactly.
From what you had done before.
So, like, going back to what you asked me, like, what does that mean to you? Like, how God fulfills you? Like, that's how God fulfills me and strengthens me. Because since then, I've never felt stronger in my sobriety. And, like, a year and a half ago, I was actually in a really, really, really low time. So I had fought Patty Pimblett.
That you won?
Everyone knows that story. That fucked me up. I was like, all right, like, big silver lining in that one, though, made me very popular. My, follower account, like, skyrocketed. So there was, like, a lot of silver linings with that. And then I fight Bobby Green. Winning that fight, get headbutt, no contest. I got concussed in that fight. And I had pretty bad symptoms.
Yeah.
And 6 weeks later, I get called to fight Jim Miller on short notice. Okay, I'll take it. 3 weeks out from the fight, I'm good. My weight was perfect. Like, I did have to, do a tough weight cut, but, I was on point. I did a media day. I said that, they were like, oh, you think you're coming back too fast from the Bobby Green fight? And I'm like, I had some symptoms, some concussion symptoms, but I feel great now. I'm ready to go. Next day, I get pulled from the fight from the athletic commission because they were like, you just said on air that you had concussion symptoms. Like, we can't let you fight. And so that was another low blow.
Yeah.
Cost me a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Got nothing out of it.
Yeah. Did all the work.
So I really went into a spiral where I was like, what am I doing wrong here? I won the Patty Pimblett fight. I was winning the Bobby Green fight. I don't even get a chance to fight fucking Jim Miller. What the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
And I ended up doing a bunch of stuff, like brain health stuff. I changed everything. I got a new sponsor. Plugged hard into God. And I'm still I'm better mentally, but career-wise, I was very down. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? A loss that I really won.
Yeah.
No contest, pulled from a fight.
Yeah.
Looking pretty shitty right now for this year. And then I get the call, that day, so I'm with Jason Strout, one of my longtime coaches from Kill Cliff, and who I've known from New York, and we're sitting at a coffee shop drinking, and I'm like, fuck fighting. I'm done with this shit. I'm not going to the fucking gym later. And then, as I say that, Ali calls me. Hey, brother, what's up?
Hey,
Yo,
brother.
What's
hey,
up?
brother. How are you?
Yeah, and he's like, hey, you want to fight at Madison Square Garden? And I'm like, yeah, against who? He's like, Mark Madsen. I'm like, book it.
I love it.
And then I'm like, let's go to the gym.
Yeah.
And Jason's
I'm fighting.
Yeah, Jason's like, you fucking idiot. You were just complaining how much you hate fighting. And then, so everything, happened for, a reason. Yeah, it might have been not the greatest series of events for me, career-wise or whatever, life-wise. But then, it led me to this moment where, all right, I fight Madison Square Garden. I fight a guy who's really good, 4-1, did really well in the UFC, lost to Grant Dawson, his only loss in the UFC, his only loss ever. And then I go in there, make it look kind of easy, win in the first round. And, life's been pretty cool since then.
Yeah.
But, it's all God, dude. And, all of, when I look back, you need time to see how it's going to play out. So then you can look back and be like, it all happened.
Shit, it all happened
It was all
for a
supposed
reason.
to be like this.
It was all supposed to happen.
And, I wouldn't want any other way.
Yeah.
That's how you feel. And I can only give that, only God can make things happen the way they happen. Because, never in my mind could I create the scenarios and every, I could have went this way instead of this way. Maybe it would have happened. No, only God would have made me step in certain directions to make everything happen the way they happen and for it to go down the way it did. So it's I just
no, you're a miracle, bro.
Being able to really surrender, that's where the fulfillment is knowing
that's the hardest part for me.
he's gonna fucking, well, that's the thing, because when you look at the past and we tend to look at all the negative shit. You don't really tend to remember all the good stuff. I mean, you do, but you're what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? That's the past. It's a reality that will never happen again, and you can't change anyway, so what the fuck is the difference? And then you look at the future, and you're like, what if this and this and this happens? And it's well, you're making up a reality in your head, and it's never even, you think it's going to happen this way?
Yeah.
Even if one of those things does happen, the outcome is probably not going to be the way you think it is anyway. So what
Right.
the fuck is the point of
Why are you
thinking
worrying
about
about
that
it?
anyways?
Mm-hmm.
So like all I can do is do what I can to be prepared, which brings confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and to make myself better, and to let him, God,
Mm-hmm.
make everything happen for me the way it's supposed to happen
Yeah,
anyways.
he's
So
working
it's
all
like,
things out for your
exactly.
good. Yeah.
It's wild. So very similar to you. You talked about when that case was dismissed in Florida. You walked out of the court. You went right to the dealer and got high. You OD'd.
Almost got arrested on the way there.
Yeah. You leave the hospital. You go use. So, you win. You pull away from God a little bit. And
Yeah.
you're on your phone,
No,
and your
this
wife
is-
called it
yes,
out.
yes.
So I was very similar to you. Anytime when things were going really bad, I was like telling everyone, like, all right, I got my head down, walking back into a meeting, putting my hand up. I have 1 day, I have 2 days. But then when I would get the bonus at work, when I would get the promotion at work, when something good would happen,
Mm-hmm.
boom, I'm going and I'm getting
Right.
high.
Of course.
For you,
Yeah, there's a reason to celebrate, and
hell yeah.
celebrate, you get high. Something bad happened, you get high.
For work,
Yeah.
I always showed up. You were fighting that whole in training most of that time.
And winning.
It's insane. But let me ask you, and I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Your next win, what are you going to do differently
How do you, yeah.
to handle that success? Because I know you're going to win again.
I think I progress a little bit every time. Where even every fight camp before the win, I do something different. Because if I do the same thing every time, then it's like
I love
you're not
that.
evolving.
Yeah.
So, like this next, like I've already decided, like I got to change this, and this, because that like really didn't work for me that camp, or it wasn't the best thing that I could have done, or maybe I should do more of this or less of that. So, and then when the win comes, it's like, how can I manage the weeks following better, or my money better, or
Yeah.
how I talk to people, or how I treat people, and I think that really shows how plugged in to God you are.
If you don't let the highs get too high and the lows get too low.
That's exactly that. Like,
Yeah.
like you don't want there to be valleys and mountaintops, because if there's high mountaintops, there's certainly going to be some low
Oh, yeah.
valleys. You know?
Dude, I didn't realize that when I was growing up, and it took years of like living that life of like the highs being so high and the lows being so fucking low, and like depressed and like fucking hating my life and numbing out and coping and making poor choices, and then being really high again and like
Yes.
winning and being successful and being on top of the world. It took me so long to realize that like life doesn't have to be lived that way. Like it's actually much healthier and more sustainable to live like, yeah, like I'm gonna go do this fight and I'm gonna have fun and I'm gonna give my best because I love fighting and this brings me joy, and like the outcome is in God's hands, and like when I win, great. If I lose, like either way, like putting your faith in Him, putting your faith in something bigger than yourself, and like having that piece of like all is well. Like I did not, and I think surrender, what you talk about, is a huge part of that, because I'd never surrendered. Like I had this illusion of control. Like I can work harder, I can do more, I can be better, I can be perfect, I can manage this. And it wasn't until I was like, oh fuck, my life is unmanageable and like I can't do this by myself anymore, that piece sort of like happened.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I feel like when either I'm really high or if I'm really low, I could still make the choice to be happy. Because, I mean, obviously when I'm high, I'm going to be happy. Or when I'm on the mountaintop, I'm
Right.
happy. But like when I'm having a bad day, like my wife always says to me, like, it's your choice to be happy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is a terrible thing that happened to me. Like, how could I be happy?
I
She's
love
like, she's
her.
like, you could just decide that you're happy even though this happened to you. And I'm like, and that's just a way more sane way to live.
Yeah.
Because like it's like talking about the past. Like, oh, like, or like the girl that left you, or like the job you lost. Like, well, why are you sulking in that? you could choose to just
Dwelling in
decide to
misery.
move on or be happy today. Like
Yep.
you don't have to live miserably. You could say, you know what, something bad happened to me today, but and you know what it also is being grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Because like we always
practice
just
gratitude?
I try my hardest. We look at what we want way more than what we already have.
Mm-hmm.
But like we have so much and a lot more compared to other people. So it's like, I mean, some people want a little bit of what we have and they would be happy. So it's like you'll never be happy if you're not grateful for what you have ever, because you're always just going to want and want and want, and like it's impossible to live that way because you're always miserable. Like people
It's
that
never
are
enough.
greedy people, it's like when is it enough for you? It's like it's the same thing as being a drug addict. When's enough? Like this isn't enough for you. Like, so
You touched on it a little bit, but are you grateful for all of it? Are you grateful for your childhood trauma? Are you grateful for what you went through in your 20s? Like, are you grateful that you fucking have you?
yeah,
Are you?
I wouldn't change it.
Really?
And no, because
That's a hard thing for people to
if
understand.
this stuff didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be able to help others. If I didn't go through what and make it out the other end and be successful, then like I'm of no service to people that are currently suffering in those positions. So yeah, I needed this. Like I thought fighting was about getting famous and being cool and shit, but it's really all about using what you have to help others, and that's for
Yeah.
anyone, a business owner,
Yeah.
a celeb, an actor. Like use what you have to help. I mean, like if Conor McGregor or LeBron James was on the corner talking about mental health and God, people would be like, yo, God's cool,
A
bro.
lot of people would be
Uh-huh.
listening.
Yep.
God's cool, man.
I know.
But like,
know.
certain celebrities want to talk about or be on TV smoking joints
Yeah.
with the bottle, Cristal bottle on a yacht,
Yeah.
which, you know what, looks pretty fucking fun, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I had a Lamborghini yacht
Yeah.
and was, with like a $500,000 watch on my wrist. But like, are you really happy? And like, are you really helping others?
No, that to me
You know what I mean?
screams like, yeah,
Insecure
yeah,
and like
unhappy, like a
and douche.
deep rooted,
Yes,
like.
Dude, the fact that sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to
no,
cut-
you're good.
You said before you were talking to your wife before coming here, or like you guys had the marriage group, and you said no, I have to do this.
Yeah. She was
And
like,
dude, your story is going to help so many.
It already
people.
does. It already does.
And the
Yeah.
fact that you are looking to give back and do those things speaks to who you are as a person and where your head is at from a sobriety standpoint.
And why God saved you?
yeah. I mean, I
gonna
know
cry?
that.
No.
I know that was my. I see now that that's my purpose. Like,
Yeah.
This is why I'm here. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't to be, like to be a fighter. Yeah, because that's also the way I make a living. Whatever. But it's really to have a platform. Are you guys? Oh, you're obviously an AA guy or a sober guy. Are
Sober.
you
No.
sober too? Oh, 'cause
I mean, I'm.
talking about the steps and stuff. I thought and the fellowship.
Well, I go to CODA, Codependence Anonymous.
okay, cool.
Same steps.
Yeah, I
different
do
addiction.
all sorts of.
Yeah. I've been on a lot of healing.
groups.
Yeah, no, I'm in all of them.
Yeah, I've visited all.
I mean, I've been to AA, like when I just
I've
felt
been to
like
all
I
of them.
needed to feel God
Okay,
near me.
cool.
But I'm
SLA.
super
Yes.
plugged in.
I didn't want to say.
Oh, you can say whatever you
on the air.
wanted.
What?
I visit those consistently.
She's like, what?
What is it?
SLAA, Sex, Love, Addiction Anonymous.
Oh, nice.
Ever
Yeah.
been?
No, I've never been to one of those.
It's
Want to
pretty
come?
Interesting.
No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
I do.
A lot of the people there are also in recovery from drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Most of them are.
That's what I found
And
really
then they
interesting about
realized-
CODA. Yeah,
Was that
it goes deeper.
it wasn't just the drugs and the
It's a
alcohol.
symptom.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know people in GA, Gamblers Anonymous. I know people in Overeaters Anonymous.
Mm.
Sex, Love, Addiction Anonymous, AA, Al-Anon meetings, which are
Mm-hmm.
like family AA meetings.
Yep, support.
And
Do
you know there's Lip Balm Anonymous?
What is that?
People that are addicted to lip balm.
Stop it.
Swear to God.
Oh, wow.
There's
It manifests itself
CA,
in many
Cocaine
ways.
Anonymous.
Did
Right.
you have a
Those
stint
are
with
all
GA? Were you gambling ever?
I've gambled,
Yeah, so do I. I had a
but
bad
I never
run.
really. I've lost money gambling. a few times, but I never was like, oh, I got to go back tomorrow. I got to go back. So, but it could definitely, when I'm at a table, I could lose money for sure. And, you know, the amounts of money that you know, are enough to pay mortgages and car payments and, you know, maybe a little more.
Yeah.
And then I leave and I'm like, fuck my life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, spiritually you're
fuck am I
shot.
doing?
Yeah.
So pissed off for days. And then I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it was never I never actually went to a GA meeting. Wait, I had been to one with someone that I brought into GA.
Yeah, to show them the way.
So your rock bottom, someone's there right now. Like there is someone suffering right now. What would you say? What do you say to them?
I mean, it's never too late. And then I tried to share my experience with them. This is where I was. I've done all A, B, C, D. The only thing I haven't done is go to long-term prison or fully die. My heart has stopped, so I guess I died clinically. But I never ended up in a casket or went to long-term prison. I've been locked up. I've been facing time. I'm actually not a convicted felon. I've been charged as a felon, but I've been to jail 8 times.
By luck.
Spent a few days here and there in jail, you know. But those are all yets.
Yeah.
But like, it's never too late. I've seen people that were lower than me make amazing lives for themselves. And, you know, I try to give them suggestions, just the way people gave me suggestions. And, you know, like, it takes some convincing. Oh, that doesn't work. I went to AA. Yeah, how hard did you really try, though? Did you really surrender? Did you do the steps? Did you pray to God every day? And then people are like, yeah, I was sober for 9 years. I'm like, what happened? They're like, oh, I stopped going to meetings. I stopped praying. I'm like, well, this is a daily thing. That's why my wife always says, stay plugged into God. Stay plugged into God.
What do you do every day to stay plugged in? Like, what are your habits?
I pray, daily devotional, Bible app, Bible plans, AA stuff. Might go to a meeting, different meetings, as we talked about. Talk to my sponsor. I'm praying through the day. I'm driving to the gym. I'm praying to God. I'm talking to God. Sometimes I'll just talk to him. It might not even be prayers. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
Like,
That's
what else?
amazing.
Like, what do you want me to do, man?
Yeah.
Like, what else do I have to do?
Yeah.
And then, like, before I go to sleep, I pray. I find that praying with my wife is, like, more powerful. Like, when 2 or more people come together to pray, it's, like, more, like...
Yeah.
It's, like, stronger.
No, dude, at my church, I had, like...
What church you go to?
I go to Park Ridge in Coral Springs.
Okay, cool.
But, like, I remember the first time my group prayed for me, like my Bible study group, and they, like, put their hands on me and they prayed with me, for me. And I was like, wow. You know, like, it's a powerful thing to know that people care enough about you to talk to God about you.
Yeah. And sometimes there's some people where I'm like...
Sus. What's going on?
Sure, you're not God. You know what I mean? Like, they have that
He speaks through people.
it factor.
Yeah.
That I'm like, this guy's really got it, dude. Like,
Yeah.
And you know, it's crazy. Like, I could.
You've really got it, by the way.
Yeah, you do.
No, you are.
I could be doing more. My wife holds like 3 Bible studies at her gym. She owns a gym, a ninja gym. You would love it.
I'm going there. I'm gonna sign up. I'm like,
I'm in Bible study all day. I'm like, I walk in the room and I'm like, last night she's in bed, like under the sheets with the pillow and in her Bible study, and I'm like, I'm laying down. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm laying down. She's like, get in bed.
Yeah.
But like, they're in a woman's Bible group, so like, she's like, just don't like get like, she doesn't.
Don't make any sudden movements.
She doesn't want like the women to see that, like, you know, like I'm right next to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm laying down, and I'm like rolling my eyes.
This is enough.
Like, yeah. I'm like, enough for the Bible study. You know what I mean? But like, she's really.
But that's
really
good that you have someone like that around you. Oh my God, I can't.
You're
like
lucky,
that's
dude.
gotta
So my
be great.
wife is like, I'm not here to be.
Where's my not ready for that. Like,
she's
damn.
She's like, God put me here just for you to keep you in line. And I'm like, you might be right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, it's not. Like I try my hardest to be there for her, and like.
No, you guys bring out the best in each other.
And like.
That's beautiful.
It's a pretty magical thing. Like, so like she found God on her own during that 5-year span where we didn't talk to each other because she didn't believe in God, and she went through a lot too. Like, her dad died in a plane crash when she was 13 or something like that, and.
Sorry.
A lot of tragedies since then, and her like things that have happened in her family and in her life, and like she's a boss. She's a business.
She sounds solid as a rock.
2 businesses. She's franchising her gym. She owns a gymnastics.
Does she want to come on a
company.
podcast?
Yeah. Oh, you should get her on here,
dude.
She is so.
No, I'm gonna DM her.
No, I really think we should. 100%.
Oh my God, DM her, please.
Can I?
Yeah, DM her. Yeah.
Really quick shout out to your wife, because did you see the picture on his phone? It's his wife's face.
Oh yeah.
No, I didn't see it.
It's kind of a stupid picture.
No, it's amazing. It's her.
Oh.
And she
Isn't
sent me
that
that, and I'm
amazing?
like, oh, you look so hot. And I made it my
Isn't that amazing?
background. Usually I had all my dead friends as my background. That was kind of depressing after a while.
Dude, did you see Michael Johnson again after the fact that
He's
you've
like
been
one of my
sober?
main training partners.
What does he say about what happened?
So you want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
So,
Of course.
So I get locked up at Henry's gym. That's the last time I see him for like 7-8 years. So I make my UFC
gosh.
debut. I'm making my UFC debut.
That was the last time you saw him for how long?
Like 7 years. Oh my God. So I'm making my UFC debut. I'm with Jason Stroud. He was like my first real coach in New York. And we're in Oklahoma. I'm in the elevator. And Henry walks in. He looks at me. And he like does a double take. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, yo, what's up, man? He's like, what are you here for? I'm like, oh, I'm fighting this weekend. He's like, you're in the UFC? I'm like, yeah. He's like, get the fuck
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Like, are you fucking serious?
I love
It's
it.
like, you got into UFC? Yeah.
I bet he was just like in total
And
disbelief.
now he's my head coach.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
When did
So
you
it's
come
full
back down
circle.
here?
Like 5 years ago.
5 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to Rufus Sport. I learned a lot there. Wasn't for me. Plus, my wife was living in Florida. So I was like, fuck Milwaukee. It's freezing and terrible there. And I moved down here, and I've been with Henry for the last 5 years.
That's
and
awesome.
He's the man, yeah.
That's
He's
awesome.
real. And like Kami Barzini, you know Kami?
Mm-hmm.
He was like one of my,
He used to be an ATT.
yeah, he was for
Yeah.
years, like 10 years.
Yeah.
All those girls.
We're
Yeah.
rivals.
Yeah. So it's like really, I remember that moment, like he was like, why are you here?
Oh my God, I
I was
love
like,
it.
whoa.
You're in the UFC.
Fighting this weekend.
You're
He was like, you're in the UFC.
I'm a different man.
Oh
I'm a different
my
man,
God.
Henry.
I remember one time I was in the parking lot about to go into practice back then, 2011 or whatever it was, and I'm smoking crack.
Oh my God.
And Henry walks by.
Are you kidding?
Henry walks by
Are
my
you-
car, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like,
No way.
yeah. And then like 2-3 days later, I got locked up in the gym. So
oh my
like,
God.
when he saw me in the elevator, he was like,
No, I'm sure he was. He literally thought like he'd seen
Yeah.
a ghost.
yeah. So, and now that like,
Now he
you know,
knows
I'm
you.
a UFC fighter
Yeah.
under him, he's like, this is fucking, he thinks it's
That's
hysterical.
awesome.
That's amazing.
No,
You're a
it's-
miracle,
no,
dude.
you are.
You're a
a
miracle.
walking miracle.
And you're
I love
helping
it.
a lot of people
You are.
Thank you.
telling your story.
I
I respect it, and I really appreciate it.
Sometimes I feel like I'm not getting anywhere.
Ugh, come
Well,
on.
that's not true.
Well, you know how it feels.
Yeah.
Kayla? You're like, what the fuck am I doing?
You're on the path. You are
Well,
walking the path.
Can we talk about you and your UFC debut? I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
you're sick of it.
No.
Just real fast.
Yes.
Just real
Yo,
fast.
I always want to talk
Are you
about
excited?
it.
Yeah, I am.
Do you know what it's going to be like that night at
Yeah.
UFC 300? The
I mean,
biggest
I have like an
card
idea.
ever.
Yeah.
T-Mobile.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome venue.
Dude, I was there when Khabib and Connor fought.
I was there that night.
And
Crazy
yeah.
insane. It's going to be like that.
Yeah.
Probably crazier because
Yeah.
the card was definitely more
Yeah.
stacked.
I'm excited.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
Thanks.
That you get to make your debut
Yeah.
on that card.
All
Like,
in God's time,
how you
baby.
feeling?
I feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Awesome.
you know, the weight is a scary part of it for me.
It's your first time going to
35.
35.
Yeah. But
I'm sure you have a team of people.
I have a huge tribe and like a huge support network.
Who's like your head coach, Mike?
Mike,
Okay.
yeah, Mike.
He is
So Mike and Mako
a
and
stud
Anderson, yeah,
fucking
they're
coach, dude.
I'm very, very blessed, and I feel good. I'm really excited. I'm like at that 2-week-itis though, you know,
Yeah,
where
of
you're
course
just like,
I don't want to train anymore.
I told Kevin, I was like, this is the last podcast I'm doing. Like, I'm fucking sick of it.
My-
I'm,
She has
I'm
off. You have
sick
off.
of being alive. Like, I just want
My
to fight.
My last camp, I was like 2 weeks out, and I'm like, I'm not going to any more practices. I went to every one of them.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Like, I was like, I don't want to do this.
No, I know.
I don't want to go in a cold plunge anymore. I don't
every
want to
morning.
fucking
I know.
go. I don't even want to get a massage anymore.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to eat this fucking grilled chicken. I don't want to eat. I don't want to drink this.
I feel bad
fucking
for my kids.
Salty solution.
Yeah.
I don't want to chug
Yeah.
water anymore. I don't want to do any of this.
I'm like, yeah.
But
no,
like,
I'm
that's when
there.
you know you're fucking ready.
That's when
to
you're ready.
go, bro.
Yeah, dude. That's
What do you walk around at?
Right now, I'm like I had wrist surgery in December.
Oh wow.
Oh.
December 4th.
Did you
Feels great. Feels amazing. But I was out for like 3 months. It was a very fast recovery. But I'm like 180 right now. I was 78 actually today.
and you fight at
But,
155?
Yeah, so I'm not really that. I'm not like a humongous 55er.
Yeah.
I was at 45.
Yeah, I
But
bet that was
it
brutal.
I was like, I'm an in-betweener.
Yeah.
I'm like not the biggest 55er, but I'm a big 45er.
Yeah.
But like going to 45 was too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough.
And like now that I'm not 23 anymore.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, all right, 55 it is. And I do well there. So.
No, good for you. No, that's great.
And you guys have the same Ali.
Manager? Yeah.
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 Ollie.
Nice.
He manages everyone.
I know. He's
We all have the same manager.
yeah. He's the man.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I've known Ali since I'm like 17.
Really?
Because I trained at Henzo's in Manhattan.
That's
and he
where
was
I met
there
him
every
too.
day.
Yeah.
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 So like that's where like I would roll with him before I even knew
Yeah.
that he was like a manager. Like
I mean, he probably wasn't a manager
he
really
wasn't
back then.
really
He was
then,
like
no. Well, he started working with Henzo and
and
Frankie.
then Frankie.
And
No,
like,
he got me my first deal when I was
certain
still
other
doing
guys,
judo.
yeah.
I was
Oh,
like
okay.
neo-cell, and
Oh,
I
wow.
was like 20 years old.
No way.
I walked in and I did a photo shoot at Henzo's, and like Frankie Edgar's there, and like
And then you're like, I'm gonna be an MMA fighter.
no, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my god, like he was so nice to me. I
Yeah.
was like, it was great. But yeah, I've been with Ollie for a long time. He's a good guy. Do you have anything?
Yeah.
Forgive me for not knowing.
I'm going to Saudi Arabia,
Oh,
June 22nd.
Are you
fighting.
excited?
Yeah, I am actually excited. I've been to Dubai 4 times, but Saudi, new country, should be a great experience.
yeah.
And I'm going to Dubai 5 weeks in advance.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Who's gonna go with you?
acclimate. Bilal Muhammad's like one of my best friends.
Oh, really?
He's gonna come with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kami is probably coming with me.
Nice.
Henry, Jason Strout will
He's
meet
gonna
us
go.
there.
Yeah.
And there's a whole team of guys. One of my buddies from Henzo's is a coach at a gym there. So
Oh, nice.
They got, like, a
yeah,
big
Henzo's
group of
super
guys.
connected over in
yeah, he's super connected.
yeah
there.
over there.
But,
That's great.
So yeah,
That's good.
I'm fighting Nasserat Hacks.
Oh yeah.
Haxrat.
Uh-huh.
He's on a big streak, so it'll be a great win for me. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah I'm
Good.
excited. Yeah.
And the wrist is feeling good.
Wrist
Everything's
feels
feeling good.
great. Yeah, I'm like an old man though. My back hurts. My lower back. I
I
wake
get
up
it.
in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck?
How old are you?
35.
Yeah. No,
Not
I get
the
it. I'm like
youngest.
the old lady at the gym. Like I'm like the mother hen.
How old are you? I mean,
I'm 33.
oh, you're young.
She's young.
We're
33 is
literally the
young.
same age. Like what are you
2 years
talking
older
about?
than you. It's a big difference. in
I know,
MMA.
but I started doing fucking 2-a-days when I was 12.
How many fights do you have now?
17.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What are you, 16-1?
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah.
That's a lot. How many matches did you have?
In judo?
Can you even count?
No.
Thousands, obviously. That's
Thousands.
amazing.
Yeah.
She met Putin.
I have a friend, Alex. He's a judo guy. You know him.
Alex Turner?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
his wife.
He's
yeah,
married to one of my best friends, Angie.
He
Papaya.
helped me for a few fights.
Did he?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's
Alex
a
is
good
good
dude.
people.
Yeah, he is.
So is
Great
Angie.
guy.
They're-
Crazy hips. I'm like trying to.
I used to dust the floor with Alex.
Really?
I'm just kidding.
He's
No,
so
we
s-
met in Boston. He trained
he's
in
so
Boston. for a
strong,
little bit.
man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, let me just like low single you or something. Like, or let me just punch you. That would be way easier.
It's a different world,
Yeah.
dude. It's
Oh,
a
I
different
know.
world.
Yeah, different.
I love it. That's good. I'm so happy for you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming
Yeah,
on
thank
here.
you for
Thanks for
coming on,
sharing
dude.
your
Of
story. Like
No
you
problem.
are doing the Lord's work, and we're
trying.
here for it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thanks again, man.
Good
course.
luck. I'll be watching.
You too. I'll be watching.
Yeah.